Today we'll be looking at levels and grids and their function within your Revit project. So let's start with levels. Levels are going to be what control the base and top constraints of a lot of your elements. They also determine the base of your rooms when you place them in plan, which is a huge sort of deal if you're dealing with a project that has shifting elevations, making sure that you have levels at basically every surface that somebody can stand on. It's typically a good rule of thumb to use. Now, as far as creating levels, a couple of ways that you can do it. Now, if you have one that has all the right extents, you can simply just take one, copy it up by however much you need it to go up by. Now, some people frown upon this primarily because it doesn't automatically create all the views for you. I sometimes prefer that. I mentioned this in my last video that if you have the level create all the views for you, you could end up with the wrong one associated to your target. So, not a hard thing to do after the fact. If I go over to view, plan, floor plan, and create the plan that I need, you can see that now that target has a level. Now there is some benefit, right? If I wanted to, but I had that shortcut set up. I had this level, right? And I wanted to automatically create a bunch of views. Let's say that I need a lighting plan, a mechanical plan, and a power plan. I can simply just click, start it. When placing your levels, make sure that you snap like that. That makes them automatically lock when you drag them around. Now these are proving me wrong because the levels below are associated to a scope box. If they were not, then they would behave like what you typically see where all the levels go. Now, that is not a bad practice to put in place, using scope box to manage the extents of your levels. I do it on a lot of projects, especially when you have something like a residential building, which has a main house, a garage, and some other side sort of secondary buildings. It makes it really easy to set up scope boxes for each building and then telling the levels to constrain themselves to stay within those scope boxes. If you ever need to adjust the extents, you simply just adjust the scope box. Now, one other key thing here, these are mostly for filtering, but you can indicate whether a level is structural or it is a building story. In my Revit templates, I typically set up a view filter that would filter out levels that are not a building story in overall building elevations. You typically don't want to see every level, you just want to see the main levels. Okay, now let's look at the grids. If I go over to a plan and I go over to annotate, datums, you have grids. Now, one of the things you'll notice is that I cannot place levels in plan. I can place grids, but if I were in elevation or section, I can still place grids. Now, when you place grids, right, you're gonna choose the type of grid. Typically in a template of mine, you'll find an existing and a new construction grid. They're preset with colors for each phase. Now this one has some kind of weirdly named types in here, but that's okay. I'm gonna click, start with placing one, and I'm gonna copy one over to the right and maybe again. Now, if I needed the grids to head the other direction, read alphabetical or alphanumerical, then I want to make sure that I only do one on this side, right? Then I'm going to take that one, rename it or change the value, and then I copy it around. Now, something that gets people is, okay, now I'm going to copy my 3 over and expect a 4, but it turns into a D. That's because Revit remembers the last numbering or value system that you entered. So do all your numeric first, then change over to alphanumeric. Try not to go back and forth because then you might end up with the wrong grids. Not a hard thing to change, right? If you have the wrong one there, just go in, change it to a 4 if that's what it is, and then copy it around as needed. And then same thing going the other way, right? If I copy this down, it turns into an 8. So I want to make sure that that is actually a D. And then I can continue copying as needed. Now grids, and I'm blanking from what year, maybe it was 2022, but you are now have the ability to see them in 3D. So if I go over to a 3D view, you can see my grids are visible. If I wanted to see the grids across all my levels, I can go over in here into the properties of the view, say show grids at all my levels. A little confusing. I typically don't want to see them like this, so I'll turn it back down to just the others. Unless you have a specific need to see them. Oh, did it backwards. But if you have a specific need to see it at L4 as opposed to L1, that's how you would control that. And I'm gonna say that's a quick overview on levels and grids. Thanks so much for watching. If you found this video helpful, give it a thumbs up. Got any questions? Head over to bimdad.com and let us know. And of course, don't forget to hit that subscribe button so you don't miss out on future content. See you in the next one.